Well, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. We got a few people in the room here, so it's going to make it a little bit easier, and I'm just going to pretend that we're standing in front of everybody. So I'm really excited to get this opportunity for my first commander's call. We're going to talk about a lot of great things. We're going to have some of our experts and SMEs come up and address some things that we've heard about throughout the month, and hopefully provide some information, and more importantly, get those questions rolling in the chat, and then we'll get either answers back to you directly here, or we'll follow up if they're more complicated. We don't have the right person here to do that. And so we're just going to get going, and I really appreciate everybody trying to do this a different way, and we're going to see how it goes, and certainly we'll take your feedback if you thought this worked or not. And we're trying Facebook Live as the platform first, and then we'll see where that takes us from here. So we'll get started here. We got Sergeant Erredge flipping side. So the first thing we want to talk about, we want to get caught up on all of our awards. And so, oh, sorry. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about. I'll give you a second to kind of look at that. And we haven't sent slides out, right? So they're just...
No, sir.
Okay. So we can send the slides out afterwards just so everybody has information, so you don't have to write down a bunch of notes. But here's what we're going to talk about today. Fairly hefty agenda. We'll get through it as fast as we can, and we'll give the hook to everybody, but we're going to try to keep this to 45 minutes. All right, so we'll jump into it. So really excited for Major Fuller and Sergeant Panwitz. They were selected by AFRC to be, I think they selected 16 people again this year. So
yes,
they're 2 of 16 selected across the entire AFRC for the profiles in leadership. And those of you that are familiar with that award, they'll get a gigantic, not kidding, gigantic poster like this that's going to hang in the halls of the Pentagon for an entire year. So congratulations to them. We'll do applause at the end. And so great work by both those folks and for their chains for submitting them. So really proud of them. Next award is going to be our step 2. We previously sent this out, but we want to kind of clean it up. So we submitted 6 people and we got 3, so 50%. It's not bad. Certainly we like to do better. But again, congratulations to these 3 folks, and for all the hard work and recognizing them. They're going to be pinned, or they should be effective here 1 October. So congratulations on your promotions. All right, as you know, it's the beginning award season, and all the great work everybody did to submit and recognize their people for the Information Dom and the Jumper Warfighting Awards. And so these are the wing nominees that went forward to 10th Air Force. So they'll compete at 10th and then move on to compete at AFRC. And as you remember last year, we won more than 50% of the awards for the entire command. So I expect that we'll do very well this year. So our Information Dominance Officer of the Year, the CGO and the FGO. So congratulations to Captain Stein and Major Benkowski. Congratulations, Mr. Bradford, as the Civilian Information Dominance Annual Award winner. So I know he does great work down there at the 860th. Right, here's our enlisted awards. And so most you know there's a ton of categories here, and so we nominated somebody in almost every category, which is really important. So congratulations to all our folks there: Tech Sergeant Stoll, Master Sergeant Ciero, Senior Airman Barreto, Senior Airman Robertson, Tech Sergeant Kinsey, and Master Sergeant Walker. Great work. We hope you will compete well going forward at 10th in the command. All right, then the Jumper Excellence in Warfighting. So that's the integration piece, how we as cyber and intel integrate into the joint fight. And so we have 3 here that we recognize. So congratulations, Major Mansfield, Mr. Longnecker, and Master Sergeant Hammers. Great work there in what you do and helping the mission move forward. And then finally, again, these are probably really important awards as well as unit awards. And so last year, if you didn't know, the 426 won the Air Force level for the McClellan Award. And so we're nominating them again. So great work by them in putting that together, and the work throughout the year to earn that. And good luck to the 42nd as well, competing in their category. All right, so obviously we had the ISR awards as well. So here are the people that we submitted. again, we're not just cyber. We're a complete warfighter team, and the intel team is a really important part. And it's about 18% of the wing. So we want to recognize Major Treyas and Lieutenant Mallow, which used to be Anderson, those of you don't know. Mr. Rich Walski, again, Sergeant Hammer, Tech Sergeant Reyes, and Senior Airman Postema for their great work in the intel community and bringing that expertise to us cyber folks and being a part of the mission. So great work there. And I'm not sure what the time frame is on the ISR awards and the information dominance, but generally here by November we'll start hearing how they're competing at the higher levels. All right, so I feel like I'm going really fast here, but to pound through this, so here's our wing quarterly award winners for third quarter. Congratulations for the CGO category, and First Lieutenant Seal, and then Senior NCO Falks, and CG for the NCO, and Airman Vogel, and our very own Miss Mathison on the wing staff. So congratulations to those folks. All right, so here's just kind of a reminder of how we're gonna kind of handle what we call a public forum or live stream for a live commander's call. And since we're using Facebook Live, I just want you to recognize that anything you put out on Facebook here is gonna be public. And so let's remember OPSEC and remember professionalism, because this is open to anybody that happens to be strolling through Facebook. And I'd like to welcome the families as well, who hopefully some of them are joining us, that we're open to that. We'll take your questions as well. All right, so I'm gonna call up Colonel Darden, and as the Vice Commander, he's responsible for the Wing Diversity Council, and we're just getting this thing off the ground. Again, it's part of our growing as an organization and as a wing, and he's going to talk about what we're planning for the future. So, Colonel Darden.
Thanks, sir, and afternoon, gladiators. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes talking about our plans for the Wing Diversity Council. Slide. All right, here's what we're going to go over. We're going to talk briefly about the requirement. We're going to go over some definitions, talk about the way ahead, and then I'll take your questions at the end, but mind what the commander said about this being a public forum. So, next slide. Now, the requirement, there's been plenty of conversations lately about diversity in the Air Force, articles in Air Force Times, as well as call out about what's happening in the nation. But the reality about diversity is it's always been there. So I'm not going to read the definition to you, but if you look at AFI 36-7001, which is our guiding definition for diversity, it says, and I want you to hone in on that last part, not limited to personal life experiences, geographic and socioeconomic backgrounds, cultural knowledge, educational background, work experience, language abilities, physical abilities, philosophical and spiritual perspectives, age, race, ethnicity, and gender. So basically, diversity is everything, right? And as a very, very, very diverse and geographically separated wing, we have to account for diversity in everything, absolutely everything we do. The second part of that, as mentioned in the AFI, is inclusion, right? Inclusion is the process of creating a culture where all members, and again, look at that top definition, socioeconomic backgrounds and everything else, feel included and are part of everything that's ingrained in our organization. Slide. And so the AFI requires that we absolutely consider diversity in everything we do. And in order to get there, what the wing commanders directed is that we establish a council, right? Is one mechanism for ensuring that as a wing, we're paying attention to those different aspects of diversity and including them in both our hiring and our ops and in everything else. And so in accordance with the AFI, we have to establish a diversity and inclusion assessment and feedback mechanism and provide that to our headquarters. We have to promote and hire headquarters coordinated diversity program and inclusion elements within our education and training to the maximum extent possible. We have to promote and support tactical outreach, so that's your outreach in the local communities. And then we have to collect, analyze, and assess and report our progress to meet those goals. Slide. So the way ahead, right? So the council is just, we just got the idea for it. We're just forming. Right now in TMT, all the squadrons have a tasker to provide a volunteer. So that's one per squadron. Grade doesn't matter, experience doesn't matter. Really, the only thing that matters is the willingness to participate in what will be the wing level council. And it's not full-time, status agnostic. We just want folks that are willing to work. The effort is going to be led by the 689th Commander, Major Fuller, so I applaud her and thank her in advance for taking on this challenge. And then from there, at the 960 Cyberspace Wing Leadership Forum, we're going to get a briefing from Major Fuller about the way forward, the efforts and activities that will go into developing that next bullet, which is the flight plan. The flight plan is our way of describing what will be the strategic plan for diversity and outreach in the wing. Slide. So with that, I will turn it over to any questions. The reminder will be public. So are there any questions for me?
Sir, there was none posted online.
That is not awesome, folks. I know folks have got plenty of questions. So if you do, please feel free to reach out to me afterwards. And I'm happy to take them or work with Major Fuller to fill them. So the next briefer is Ms. Frances Martinez. Ms. Martinez is the Wing's Director of Psychological Health, and she'll be briefing on her initiative, Gladiators Saving Gladiators. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Darden.
Gotta put my mask back on.
Welcome everyone. So our goal as the psychological health program is to increase individual, unit, and wing readiness to help airmen and their families maximize psychological health, resiliency, and their well-being to prevail over the unique challenges by the military life. So services provided, any consultation in wing leadership. So all commanders, any first sergeants can reach out to me in regards to anything that's happening in your unit, and I'll be happy to help you with anything. If it's just a simple question, or if you have any situations, that's what I'm here for. Undocumented sessions with any airmen in the units. You guys can reach out to me if you have any struggles with marital issues, finances, or just need someone to vent to about anything that's really going on in your life. Everything is undocumented. The only time I have to disclose anything if you're a threat to someone else or yourself. And I would be the one who would be the provider or giving you those resources off base, or if you're needing any mental health services here, I'll be able to do that. And command and unit education briefings and common challenges that might be faced by family members and airmen. So I've done the suicide prevention event. We have a lot of ongoing initiatives. So Gladiators Saving Gladiators is a mental health initiative for the 960th Wing. Connection, it's difficult right in this life of cyber and COVID on top of that. Our connections, so right now we're connecting via Teams or calls to outreach. So I'll be doing that. I've met with several of the units already, and once I finish meeting with everyone, we're gonna have a big collaborative event and talk about our findings. Direct connection to the airmen. So I am here to serve all of you. So please reach out to me. It's not just the commanders or the wing level support, it's everyone in the 960th, civilians included, family members, children. I mean, anyone can reach out to me. We are doing programming and training development throughout the wing. It's going to be ongoing. Generally every month I will have some sort of event or training. Podcast, I've been utilizing the podcast, and that's a great way for me to reach out to everyone. So we've had some really great podcasts in September to capture Suicide Prevention Month. So please, listen to those. We had some really great speakers. We have more scheduled for October. So please make sure to listen to those. The happy or not feedback responses, I get those, and that's how I'm going to help you guys. So please fill out those surveys, because that's what I'm utilizing to develop programs within the wing. And then wing engagement in GSUs. So I know it's difficult being out there. How can you help us? We're out here, not even in Texas. Well, I'm trying to get wing engagement, including the GSUs. So we did do a 5K for Suicide Prevention Month. We had great number of participants, and so I was asked yesterday who the winner was. So right now we're going to disclose who the winner was, and it was 52nd NWS. They were the winners. So they had the greatest percentage of participation. Currently we have the 5K for breast cancer awareness through the 14th, so please send me in your photos. That part is not the competition, it's just, to raise awareness. We are having our domestic violence 5K coming up on the 16th through the 31st, and that is the wing competition. So make sure to get everyone involved and send me your photos. I did upload a slideshow for the suicide prevention run that everyone did. It's on Teams, so please be sure to take a look at that. National Military Family Appreciation Month. This is a big event. It's going to take a lot of work, but I'm excited. We have a lot of great presenters that are coming. So for the GSUs, we will have virtual presentations similar to this platform. So we have chaplain services, MFLAC, we had the Stephen Cohen Clinic, some local resources, personal financial counselors. So it's going to be a really great event for everyone. And then for those that are local, they will be on site. So please mark your calendars for November 7th. I will have more details to be sent out no later than October 15th. Yes, sir.
There's a question for you.
Okay.
It says, it's from Eyebrows Lashes, not sure who that is. But there's a picture of her eyebrows and eyebrow and lashes.
Okay.
So question is, for active duty personnel and or traditionals, can you make referrals for the GSUs, or can you only make referrals for JBSA personnel?
No, I can make referrals to anyone in our wing. So if you guys have any issues, please reach out to me. I am working on resources available in your geographic location. So any other questions?
Anybody else? What's the name of the podcast?
Sword and Shield.
Take every chance to plug it we can.
All right, and it is on the Air Force Connect app. I just checked this morning. So now I'm going to turn it over to our key spouse mentor, Casey Erredge.
Good morning, everyone. Casey Erredge. I'm the Wing Key Spouse Mentor, and I'm here to fill you in on some of the things that are going on with the Key Spouse program across the wing. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is last week I was invited to attend an Air Force Reserve Command continuous process improvement event regarding the Key Spouse program. So there are about 10 of us that are on the team. And we are working, and we're still working now that it's over. We're doing a lot on the phone the last week trying to coordinate things, but we're working to improve the Key Spouse program for the reserve families. General and Mrs. Scobie are very passionate about care for the airmen and their families, and this is something that Mrs. Scobie has brought forward. That she, we really want to make some changes. The program, the Key Spouse program that we follow now, has come to us from active duty, and it is a very great program, but the reserve has some very unique challenges that our families face, and we want to make sure that we're incorporating that into the program so that we can better support all of you and your families. So that's going to be a continuous process. The commanders are going to find out a little bit more about some of the tweaks and changes that we've made next week at the Air Force Reserve Command Wing conference, and slowly we'll start getting things rolled out. So you'll see some things from me about the new StratCom plan, about the program, and some changes going forward. So next, I've been a part of the Empowering Airmen and Families priority. We have made maturing the Wing Key Spouse Program, one of the main objectives of that priority. So I've been working with Senior Master Sergeant Opoko, Major Fuller, and the teams for that priority to grow the Wing Key Spouse Program. A couple of the things is we're trying to make sure that each unit within the wing has a key spouse. For those of you, I know not everybody has that, so we're trying to get everybody to have one. For those that are not, you've got support from me, you've got support from leadership, so we're working to grow that. I also want to, I don't have this up there, but I want to put a shout out. We've had a couple of units that have had some interactions with their key spouses lately. I know the 55th did a meet and greet yesterday. I know the 50th here that they've had some interactions with their new First Sergeant, Master Sergeant Vielman, and the key spouse there. So we're trying, and we're going to get to everybody, but try and get, we'd really love it if you would connect us to your families, because that's how this program works best, is creating a network for your families, whether you're deployed right now or not. I think COVID's a perfect example of creating that network that isn't necessarily for deployments. We can keep in touch during crises that keep us apart. So like I said, we'd love to connect with your families. I've got some information up on the slide that'll tell you how to connect with us on AF Connect. For those that aren't fond of Facebook, we do have a group on AF Connect. We have a group on Facebook. You can reach me at the Wing Key Spouse Gmail account, and I can put you in touch with a local key spouse, and you can always give me a call as well. My number is open to anyone. If you're in need of some resources and you just don't know who your local person is, just feel free to reach out to me anytime. So like I said, we're really working hard. We really care about the airmen and the families of the 960th, and we want to make sure that all of you, even those of you that are not here in Texas, that we support you and that we're here for you. So does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Is the Key Spouse Program just for spouses?
Oh, no. The Key Spouse Program is not for just for spouses. We are here to support whoever is important to you. So if you are not married and you have a friend or an aunt or an uncle or sister, brother, whoever is important to you, that's the person that we'll support. And if that person is interested in becoming an official Key Spouse volunteer, they also do not have to be a spouse to be an official volunteer. So it does help if they have access to the base, but not a requirement. Any other questions?
There was none posted online,
Right.
ma'am.
Okay, so next we have Mr. Bud Banky talking about the strategic alignment and deployment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hold up the phone. Mr. Bud has to tune in virtually because he just wasn't feeling well today. So, Bud, whenever you're ready to get started, you're good to go.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Very happy to be with all of you today. So the theme for this presentation, talking about our strategic alignment and deployment efforts, as teamwork, right? I'm going to attempt to show you our connection through our community through this story, okay? So next slide, please. We'll go over a quick overview. We're going to reiterate a few things that are crucially important to our efforts of collectively coming together, defining our mission, our vision, how to close the gap, defining our key performance indicators, and then ultimately executing those indicators. So strategic planning 101, what this is telling you, it's a roadmap for success, right? And it certainly takes a village. We've had over 60 volunteers volunteer for all 3 priority working groups. Tremendous effort, gladiators. Keep it going. A lot of collaboration, incredible work going on. Next slide, please. And next slide. Mission and vision. So our mission and vision present a 30,000-foot view of our command and control and our relationships. Okay. Understand, commanders, your mission and vision. Make sure your people understand your mission and vision. You need to post your mission and vision up in multiple methods, and I've got a few deliverables that we're going to be sharing a little bit later, including our strat map, our Hoshin matrix, and snapshot. But we've got an inspection coming up in January, and they're going to be asking anybody at random, what is your 960th vision statement, right? So please post this up. Please ingrain this in your folks' head. This is such an important measure of how we relate to the big picture Air Force. Next slide. All right, before any CPI project starts, we always start with a project plan. And so I wanted to bring our wing priority project plan up to show you the percent complete column, right? So about half of our tasks have been either 80 or higher percentage complete, so we're trending green there. Right now we're in the process of not only collecting the data, but analyzing data, okay? So what's next for our priority working groups is they're identifying potential COAs for execution, and then we'll ultimately decide on which COA we're going to go with. So don't be surprised if we'll be reaching out to identify some additional project managers to join the team. So look out for a tasker. Next slide. All right, so this document, this is our wing strategy map. If you're in the wing staff building, you should see this thing posted in 3 or 4 different locations around the building. So I advise commanders, superintendents, supervisors, please do the same. Relative to our mission and vision, our inspection coming in January, they're going to want to know what our 3 priorities are as well. So please ensure that this document, along with the other 2 documents that we're going to be talking about shortly, are posted together. They complement each other extremely well to provide an illustrated breakdown of our representation within the wing, but also to our higher headquarters in alignment. And next slide. Next slide is what we call a Hoshin X matrix, okay? So what you're looking at 4 quadrants, and you can put really anything inside this middle box here. So we broke it down strategically. We're looking at our ICMs at the bottom, our priorities to the left, our 10 goals up top, and our 34 objectives that are being carried out across the wing. So this can be a little confusing at first, but if you just simply start right in the middle where our shield is, and go to ICMs, right? We've got different POCs for these ICMs. So if you look down at CPI, you can make it out okay. I went ahead and showed the CPI correlation to all 34 objectives, okay? So the 3 types of correlations are a strong correlation, a moderate correlation, and a weak correlation. So since I'm the POC for CPI, I went ahead and filled out some CPI correlations. I'm going to ask the other POCs to please fill out their correlation with their ICMs to the objectives. Go owners and project priority champions are going to be filling in the rest. So this is another document that's live. It's continuously being updated, but think of this as a cheat sheet to your playbook. This is going to help you for a very quick reference for a rapid situational awareness. Next slide. And finally, the last document is a very quick snapshot of our strategic plan with a quote directly from Colonel Erredge up top. So you know, just like a introduction to a great book, right? This is your introduction to our success story. So this is one of the first documents that people can see. No depiction, no illustration, just simply a Word document. Again, have everybody understand what our 3 priorities are, our goals, and objectives. Next slide, please. All right, so I talked earlier about our theme for this brief was teamwork. You know, I can't describe to you the amount of cohesion and teamwork, spirit, core, and collaboration that airmen all across the United States have come together virtually in identifying gaps in performance, identifying what's acceptable and what's not, and then putting together COAs and working groups to get after these things. So the teamwork, the collaboration, incredible. We did not think that this was going to be possible across AFRC within the CPI community in regards to hosting strategic alignment events. But we had so many people pull together. So proud of everybody, so thank you for your contributions. There is one success story that I'd like to talk about. And since it's midterms right now, our appraisal's coming up in about 6 months. No better time than now to get an early start on the civilian bonus next year. So 90 days after we held our strategic alignment and deployment event in April, this we're talking about July now, I expressed to Colonel Erredge my dissatisfaction with our current dashboard and tracking mechanisms. Although this dashboard is widely used across AFRC, I just wasn't satisfied with it. I thought it was clunky. I thought it was not user-friendly. There were broken links all around, and I just thought that we were capable of innovating better. Until Colonel Erredge moved the boulder. Within the next week, he got me on the phone with General Olson. General Olson provided 4 different COAs for us to choose from on how to proceed in removing this barrier. So the COA that we went with is that we obtained some RPA money, and we identified 2 ops research analysis. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell and Major Balser, they came on board our team, and they helped us collect data, organize the data, thoughtfully present it in a great dashboard that hopefully everybody's going to be more comfortable with as we move on. We just started our brand new reporting battle rhythm with our ICMs and our KPI strategic objectives, and so excited for the future. But without Colonel Erredge's leadership and ability to instill teamwork with everybody, this dashboard would not have succeeded. So our leader moved our constraints, and word to the wise, right? Your vital team members are the folks that you're going to lean on. They're going to enable success for others. And Colonel Erredge certainly enabled success, not just for the CPI office, not for the strategic alignment and deployment program, but for the entire wing. And so again, teamwork was certainly sharpened during this. So with that said, that's all I have for you, everybody. Starting tomorrow, Major Fuller is going to be taking it over, and she's going to be presenting to you Priority 1, Week 1, ICMs, and KPIs. So as long as she has enough time away from decking the halls of the Pentagon, it's going to be all hers tomorrow. With that said, I'll take any questions.
All right, sir, it looks like you had no questions. There was none online either for you, so really appreciate your time. Next we have...
Thanks, Stan.
Oh, next we have Tech Sergeant Gary Lund giving the safety briefing. Thanks, bud.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tech Sergeant Lund. I'm the wing safety rep for the 960th Cyberspace Wing. I'm going to go ahead and give you your safety briefing, a holiday safety briefing for Halloween, for Thanksgiving, and for Christmas as well. So next slide. Now we're going to go ahead and start off with Halloween safety. So a few safety tips here. Never travel alone. So when your children are out trick-or-treating, always accompany them by their side. Never let them go alone. Always utilize the buddy system, as we like to call it in the safety world. And then for your children on their Halloween costumes, ensure that they wear reflective material. Ensure that either they have a flashlight, they have reflective material, and basically make sure that they don't pose as a dark man for Halloween. Also, avoid wearing masks that inhibit vision. So, of course, with us being in COVID-19 and the pandemic right now, of course, encourage your children, of course, to wear masks while trick-or-treating, but also only at least covering the mouth and covering the nose, but not the eyes. Next slide. And then while your children are out trick-or-treating, when you're accompanying your children trick-or-treating, always ensure that they use a crosswalk when crossing the street. Look both ways, of course, prior to crossing the street. And then also, when you're walking from door to door, from one house to another, ensure they stay on the sidewalks and they're not walking out in the street. They're not walking near the curbs or anything like that. and then always carry a flashlight. So like I said before, either wear reflective material, or if they're wearing a dark Halloween costume, to use a flashlight, or carry a flashlight with them, or a Lackland laser, or Kiesler candle, however you want to call it. Next slide. And then last few Halloween safety tips here. Visit houses with a porch light on. So of course not every resident neighborhood is going to celebrate Halloween, so they may not always have treats to give out to the children for trick-or-treating, so only houses with porch lights on that'll have candy for the kids. And then also accept treats outside the house. So remind your children never go inside a stranger's house, and never go inside someone's house no matter what the situation is. Just stay outside the house, accept your treats, and then go to the next house. And then inspect candy and treats before consuming. So of course, never eat any kind of unwrapped candy, and ensure that you inspect the candy before your children consume candy, or before you consume candy as well. Next slide. All right, next we're going to talk about Thanksgiving safety. So few safety tips for Thanksgiving is stay in the kitchen at all times while food is cooking. So never leave your turkey unattended, never leave any of your trimmings unattended, because you never know what's going to happen once you leave that kitchen. And then this comes to the next tip: stay home while the turkey is being cooked. So I've actually heard a horror story where someone they put the turkey in the oven, and then they thought, okay, cool, turkey's going to take about a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours to cook. I'm going to go pick up a couple of my relatives and bring them back to the house while this turkey's in the oven cooking. And during that time frame, while they were picking up their relatives, there was a small house fire, and they had to call the fire department on Turkey Day, as a matter of fact, to put out the little fire in their house, simply because they left that turkey unattended in the oven. And then also keep children away from the stove. Give activities for your children to do while the turkey is being cooked, whether it's them playing with their toys, watching the football games, watching a movie. Just a few ideas for your children to do while that turkey and the Thanksgiving trimmings are being cooked. Next slide. All right, and then after you enjoy your Thanksgiving meal, next line of defense, Black Friday. So with Christmas shopping coming up, of course, beware of all the crowds that are coming along, rowdy crowds. They've actually got a lot better on this, because they've started opening Walmart, Target, some of the other department stores the night of Thanksgiving to avoid any of those big crowds on 3 a.m. on the Friday after Thanksgiving. And then also, be careful. Use a shopping cart, of course, if you have lots of items. And then if you want to avoid the crowds, shop online if at all possible, which you have a lot more possibilities. Shop on Amazon. Those Amazon trucks are always in my neighborhood. They're always delivering products to my neighbors, delivering products to friends. So utilize that if you want to avoid any kind of crowds and social distance even more. And then I'll go back one more time. I apologize. And then consider alternate options to purchase items, like I mentioned before, online shopping, and then avoid the crowds. And then holiday, while you're driving, so this could be not just for Christmas, but also for Thanksgiving, but for holiday driving. So keep in mind, this is for if you're driving away from San Antonio. Turn cell phones off, obviously, while you're driving. Put it on vibrate. If a call comes in while you're driving, let your passenger answer the call, or someone that's in your vehicle answer the phone, or just put on silent. And then drinking and driving, of course, with the holiday season coming up. I mean, a lot of people are going to be out and about. There's some folks that are going to be depressed because of the holiday season. That maybe their first holiday season without a loved one, maybe a recently lost loved one, or anything like that. And so, don't drink and drive. Have a designated driver at all times, whether you're going to and from your relatives' houses or friends' houses during Thanksgiving and Christmas time frame. And also take frequent breaks on road trips. So I'd recommend no more than 2 to 3 hours at a time for driving before you stop at a gas station, stop to get something to eat, or at least just get out of the car and stretch your legs there for about 10-15 minutes at a time. And pack a survival kit, because keep in mind, I know we're in Texas. I know it doesn't snow a lot here in San Antonio, so just keep in mind, if you're away from San Antonio, pack survival kit, because you could be in colder, snowy conditions. Next slide. Christmas safety. So real quick, I want to mention, make sure you have a good Christmas tree, not just one out in the forest. I use an artificial tree because they're less likely to catch on fire and less likely to fuse. Next slide. And then lastly, for not only Christmas trees, but Christmas lights. If you have Christmas lights around your Christmas tree, only turn the lights on when you're around, and when you go to sleep, then make sure you turn those lights off, because you don't want those lights to fuse out while you're sleeping and increase your chances of a house fire. Next slide. And are there any questions for me?
There was none posted online for you either, sir, except a question about, is that a real Whopper?
That was the Halloween special Black Whopper, which I heard tastes a little bit better than their tacos. All right, well, there is no other questions. I do thank you very much for your time.
Oh, there is a question for you, last minute. What is the process for getting our unit members' supervisor safety training updated?
So my next supervisor safety training is going to be probably about the beginning of the year. I'd say about January, February timeframe. And I mentioned that to a couple of my fellow unit safety reps, but yeah, nothing official yet, but like I said, beginning of the year.
Okay.
It's good? All right, thank you.
You are good.
All right, good afternoon, Gladiators. I am John Covington, the Chief of Security for the 960th Cyberspace Wing. As we just wrapped up Suicide Awareness Month and Prevention Month in September, I want to touch on how that pertains to a growing question about your security clearances. So earlier this year, the Air Force Reserve Command needed to adapt the way that we all conduct business. This undoubtedly took a toll on all the airmen across the command, and we're not immune to that. So one of the increasing questions that we've been seeing coming across is, how does seeking mental health counseling affect a member's security clearance? So in these teleworking days of limited social or physical interactions, you may find yourself wanting to or needing to seek mental health counseling. I want to remind everyone that seeking and even receiving mental health counseling is not a security clearance disqualifier. Please do not ever let this be a hesitation or a deterrent in you seeking mental health counseling. The Wing actually has a podcast, the Sword and Shield, that's posted to Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, DVids, and Mrs. Frances Martinez spoke with retired Colonel Robert Swanson, who is a 2-time survivor of suicide. Now, this podcast tells his story about his struggles with mental health and the effects of this on his clearance. So this podcast is extremely inspirational, but it's not meant to be instructional. So I want to remind everyone, please, if you have questions about mental health counseling and your security clearance, please reach out to your squadron's security team and personnel. You can also reach out to Frances Martinez, but if you have questions about your clearance and with regards to mental health counseling, please always reach out to us and always seek help. We're here for you and we'll help keep you in the fight. Thank you.
There was no questions for you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Chief Bischoff, who could not be here physically, so I'm going to hold up the phone so that y'all can hear him clearly and concisely. So Chief, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. So first and foremost, I just want to dovetail in on what Sergeant Lund was talking about with the holiday shopping. This is why it's important to PT even when you're not in the AOR, because holiday shopping's coming up, Black Friday's coming up. And believe you me, that is a contact sport, right? Holiday shopping is a contact sport. So remember, when you're out there, you're engaging in the early shopping stuff, especially if you're doing it in person, right? Anticipate, adapt, and overcome, right? Shop like a gladiator. Okay, so going into my slide here, REDP, Reserve Enlisted Development Plan, incredibly important. I'm gonna tell you why it's important. So most people think, oh, I just fill that out and goes to KPL and the key personnel list, and I don't really care about making it, so why is it a big deal? More importantly, you fill that out, you get a little bit of mentoring that comes in on the whole thing, and then it goes up to your functional for your AFSC. Why is that important? Well, you're able to get some direct feedback and some guidance on your career, what things you should be focusing on, what things you should be working on, and you highlight yourself as a shiny penny, right? So there's a lot of opportunities that come down, and if the functional says, hey, you know what, Tech Sergeant so-and-so, crushing it as a 1 Bravo, getting all these different things done, followed the feedback that we gave him or her, absolutely, you know what, they're interested in serving in the Southwest region of the United States. We have a great opportunity looking for a shiny penny. Boom, I'm going to contact that Tech Sergeant. So when you're filling it out, I strongly recommend you talk to your supervisor, you talk to your squadron superintendent. Make sure you get some good feedback on it before you submit it, because again, you want to sell yourself as to what you can bring to the fight, what you're bringing to the Air Force Reserves. Don't make it War and Peace, but don't make it one sentence either. Okay, so whatever you're wanting to do, put that in there so that way they know where you're wanting to go and what you're wanting to do, and you're highlighting your additive to the mission and to the Air Force Reserves. Second, step 2. All right, Colonel Erredge already touched on it. We got 50% selection rate. That's okay, but we can do better. So this year, we will start looking at them in January, as we did last year. Your squadron superintendents and your first sergeants have a copy of a document that I sent to them. On page 2 of that document, it highlights what sorts of things make an individual, as you're being looked at a board, what makes you, they're looking at, and they rate as average, above average, or exceptional. If you are interested in a step promotion, you need to sit down with your supervisor and sit down with your squadron superintendent and look and see what it takes to be competitive, right? Because while believe you me, there is no good dude or good dudette box as to someone who needs to get promoted, right, for the step 2. They look at measurable things. So we want to make sure that you know what those things are and you're prepared for it and you're going to be competitive. Because there's a big difference between being knowledgeable and being competitive, right? I like playing golf, but I'm not a scratch golfer or sub-scratch golfer, so I'm not going to be competitive, i.e. I'm not going to get a ticket for the PGA, okay? So we want you to be knowledgeable, we want you to be competitive, and know what it takes. Now's the time to start looking at those things, whether it's this year or next year, so you can start getting the things squared away. So again, get with your squadron superintendent, get with your supervisor, get with your first sergeant. They have that document and are ready to set you up for success, which goes into ACAs and EPRs. This is incredibly important, folks. I can't put stomp it enough. Not only is it required, right, to do an ACA and an EPR, but I have a high suspicion that a lot of this isn't going on. And we're really setting our airmen up for failure at all levels. And you're kind of wondering why. Why you need to do an ACA, just write the EPR. I told them work hard, do good things, and then I give them a 5 because I don't want to hurt their career. Again, I still use numbers. I know there's different verbiage for it now, but numbers are easier to explain. So you're hurting somebody's career because what you're not doing is building an airman. You're fluffing an airman, right? You're filling them full of fluff because what you're doing is you're telling them they're great and they're awesome, and you're not giving them anything substantial to be able to work on, to chew on, to fill themselves with, and they're just getting pushed along. They're not developing real skills. It's like doing it with your children. If you're not building those skills, they're not going to be ready to go out into life. The same way with airmen. So ACAs, set measurable goals. That document I told you about that your superintendents and your first sergeants have, use that as a guidepost, right? Start putting measurable things in there. You need to put in, achieve this level of PME. Do an NCOLDC or senior NCOLDC. Make sure that you're working on your education. Maybe you're working on a certification. There's a lot of different things, but make sure it's measurable, because if it's not measurable and you're not setting expectations in that ACA, how do you expect somebody to be able to achieve them, right? And EPRs are supposed to be a meritocracy. It's what you've earned, not what somebody's given. So you sit down, set initial expectations, then you do a midterm, right? Tell them where they are and where they're at, and say, hey, here's what you need to do to get to the next level if that's what you're interested in. And then you do a closeout right before you write the EPR and say, hey, here's what you've earned, here's what you're going to get on your EPR. Again, incredibly important. Most people, again, think ACA is no big deal, but it would be like us having a team building event, and I tell everybody, hey, we're going to play a game. What's the game? Don't worry about it. Just start playing. You would have no idea what to do. You wouldn't know the rules. Are you kicking a ball? Are you dribbling a ball? Are you throwing a ball? You have no idea. And that's what the ACA does. It sets proper expectations. You don't have proper expectations set. How do you expect somebody to meet them, especially if they're measurable? Because your idea of being a good leader and doing good things could be completely different from my idea of being a good leader and doing good things. So that's why they need to be specific and measurable. All right, happy or not in DEOCs. Incredibly important as well. So DEOCs, Colonel Erredge and I see those. We see all the responses. We see what's coming in. I will let you know that they are anonymous. We don't know who said what in there. But what we do see is your responses and your comments, right? So it's important that we get everybody to participate. It doesn't take that long. Go out there and participate, and I'll tell you why. So let's say we look at Unit X, and Unit X, at initial swath, you look at the overall numbers, and it's horrible, right? It's a raging dumpster fire. It's terrible. And then, okay, gotcha. And then we look at the comments, and the comments are, that Chief Howard so-and-so, and he's horrible, and all the rest of this stuff. Okay, gotcha. Well, then we look at the next section. How many people participated? 1. Okay, great. So out of a unit of 100, we got one person that decided to take time to give us valuable feedback, and it's one person that apparently doesn't like Chief Howard too much for whatever reason. So that obviously skews everything. There may or may not be issues, but if we have one person that's saying it's hard to get good actionable data. Right now, we have a unit of 100 people, and 80 people responded, and they're all saying that. Okay, now obviously we've got some actionable intelligence, and it's something we need to dive into. Conversely, it could be a 50-50 mix. Half the people like Chief Howard, half the people can't stand him for whatever reason. Or everybody loves Chief Howard, as we know is probably the truth, and they just want more of Chief Howard. So regardless, whether it's happy or not, or the DEOCs, we want you to participate, because the more people that participate, the better picture that we as wing leadership are getting in your squadron to be able to implement change and be able to make different things happen. So it's important. It's kind of like voting, right? We need to get out there and vote. This is your vote. You get to vote for what you like and what you don't like, and how we can shape the future, right? We can only do that with your input. And that rolls into communication. Communication is incredibly important. Again, the happy or not, and the DEOCs is part of that. The ACAs is part of that. The RADP is all that. Everything goes to communication. If you're not communicating with your supervisor and your leadership and your peers and your subordinates, right? What are you doing? If nobody, as far as I know, are mind readers. I know I'm not, right? So we need good, solid, concise communication across the board. Okay? And remember, just because the message that you're transmitting isn't necessarily the message that's being received. So what we want to do is make sure it's clear, it's concise, okay? It's short, because a lot of people, you send them an email that's War and Peace, they're going to get 3 sentences into it and say, okay, forget it. So make sure you kind of get to the so what up front. Here's what's going on, here's what I need help with, here's what I need, here's how I can help, things of that nature. So communication at all levels is important, because otherwise people don't know, okay? And that goes into teleworking. So Colonel Erredge and I were talking, and I'm sure he'll have a couple of comments after I'm done here, but teleworking, we're not going to see that going anywhere anytime soon. We actually sat down with Colonel Linian up at AFRC, had a long discussion about this. He was just part of the University of Michigan effort to study teleworking, not only for military, but also for the civilian world. And what are some good ways of implementing and sustaining that? So I myself teleworked for a company called NetApp for about 4 years, and I can tell you it's very challenging at times. You have to be very disciplined. Some of the most important things are this, and these are the findings that Colonel Linian and University of Michigan came up with. For supervisors, once again, incredibly important to communicate and set expectations, right? Set expectations, set that framework, so that way the teleworker knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing and when they're supposed to be doing it. Some of the COAs that they put out there as options are maybe it's somebody that has a time-sensitive job that you need quick responses from, so you put them on certain hours. Maybe it's 8 to 4, right? or 7 to 3, whatever. That's their day hours, and they have a 15-minute response time because whatever you're doing is critical. It can't wait. Their responses are more time-based than task-based. Okay, option 2. Maybe it's your job's more task-based, where you can say, okay, I'm not going to say what specific hours you have to work. You know you got to work 8 hours. You flex it as you need to, but here are the things that need to get done. And these need to get done by the end of the week. Okay, gotcha. So, and then there's also a hybrid, right? Because not one size fits all, right? Maybe you've got something kind of in between those two things. Maybe you have children that you're having to homeschool because of COVID, and it's kind of tough. So maybe you're able to flex some hours around, right? You're still getting the work done, which is what's important. And you're still responsive. So maybe it's somewhere in between. But in talking with Colonel Erredge, we feel that we don't have the best eyeballs on what that looks like exactly for each individual in each squadron. And we feel it's important for squadron leaders to be able to lead, because if you can't lead at the squadron level, how are you guys going to lead at the group level and be prepared to lead at the wing level? And that's what we want to do is build you as big A airmen. So setting those expectations with your folks and what makes sense for them and what makes sense for the unit is going to be at the squadron level. And we already talked to the first sergeants, we talked to the superintendent, so they're already aware of this. Those discussions should already have been started and be happening as you're listening to this. The other thing is on the teleworker part. And having been on that end of the stick as well, it's incredibly important to make sure that, once again, you communicate, right? You verify expectations of, okay, here's what I'm expected to do. Is it time-based, where I have a 15-minute response time, which I've had before, or is it task-based? You know, maybe I've got different tasks I need to do. You also need to make sure that the things you're getting done, you send up or communicate, whatever, to your supervision, a weekly sit rep. Right? I did this when I worked for NetApp, and it was incredibly helpful, right? Here's what I got done. Here's my situation report for each week. Here's the things I got done. Here's what I need. Here's what I got planned for next week. That kind of level of communication reduces assumptions, reduces the mind wandering about what you're doing and where you're going and what's going on, right? So that way the boss knows, hey, you're getting stuff done, you're getting stuff knocked out, you're actually working. You know, you're not hanging with Chief Howard on the beach, sipping Mai Tais and working on your tan, right? So, again, it's important that we communicate back and forth. It's important that everybody work together as a team and that proper expectations are set on both sides of the teleworking equation, right? So on the supervision side and also on the teleworker side. So with that, I will take any questions.
So, sir, there was one question, but Colonel Erredge said that he would like to address it if that's all right. And I believe
absolutely
there was another one, but I don't think that was for you. I think that was for Mr. Covington. So, yes, sir. So there's no other questions, and so it's Colonel Erredge. Thank you very much, Chief.
Hey, thanks, Chief. I'll start the answer and certainly pile on anything you want. So the question was, will there be more feedback provided on our EDP for 1Bs going forward, since there's not enough 1B force to KPL this past year? The feedback is very basic. So I'll kind of give you my thought process on this, and then we'll let Chief certainly help with some context. So my feeling is that if you take the time to fill out an EDP, an officer or enlisted development plan through the DT board, that the DT owes you really good feedback and makes your time submitting it worthwhile. Now, on the officer side, we take this pretty seriously, and I've been part of many DTs for this career field, for cyber and other career fields, and certainly it's a much smaller group of people, so we're able to do that. On the enlisted side of the EDPs, the process is not as mature. And last year, obviously, was canceled because the uncertainty around the 1D7 career field and what was going to happen. And so they're going to happen every 2 years still, but certainly the board process has to get better and provide you good feedback. And I think us as demanding customers, commanders, supervisors, first sergeants, chiefs, superintendents, and you as members, when you submit one, that you take the time and effort to do it thoughtfully, articulate your needs in clear context, not fancy bullets. It's not a contest where you're looking for some good feedback. The more information you give the board, the better feedback they can give. And certainly Chief knows this, and the other colonels know this, that we advocated really, really hard to get more of our people as board members, and we're going to continue to do that going forward. So AFRC has a ratio, and it is how many people, it's like 250 packages equals one board panel. And so this year, we had more officers submit to the DT than we had enlisted packages. And there's 3 times as many enlisted people in the career fields as there's officers. So certainly we need to change that, and we need to shift that and put the demand signal back on the command to get more people there, which makes it more manageable process in order to get the good feedback back to everybody. So what I'm pleading for is that supervisors, commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, and you members, whether it's downward year people or upwards, that you demand that feedback through this process. And it's going to get better, and it's going to get more robust the longer we stick with it. But if we're not using it, the command may spend money otherwise. It's very expensive to run these boards. We do them in person. You TDY people, a whole board for an entire week in AFRC, and it's when we're doing it for the officers, it's 12, 14 hours a day for 5 days, and there's GOs there, and we're taking their time. And now for the enlisted one, we're taking Chief's time across the board. We want to make that time valuable. So, Chief, do you have anything to add?
Yes, sir. So, obviously, like I said, it's important to fill out and get local input within the wing. Doesn't necessarily have to be your squadron, but within the wing. I will tell you, as Colonel Erredge said, it is very daunting. If anybody has sat on a board, it's kind of like getting a root canal. If you haven't, it's like getting a root canal, right? So you have a tremendous amount of records to go through. And after you go through a couple of them, especially if it's very, very large, like for the 3 Delta, holy smokes, man. You got a limited amount of time, and you got a lot of records to go through. So being able to give a tailored feedback is incredibly difficult. The only way really to get around that is if you have one person looking at the records, and you've got one person attached to them, or a couple people attached to them that are writing up, hey, here's what this individual needs to do. I can tell you for the KPL, I talked to the NAV command chief, and he said there were so many records that all they could do is they came up with the only way they could manage it and the amount of time they had was they came up with a set of about 3 or 4 different responses that were canned responses. They said that was the only way they could do it, and just have the recorder say, okay, this person, number 1, number 3. The only way that they could get through that number of records in a set amount of time. So just understand there's a lot of people working hard. It's difficult. We're trying to figure out better ways of doing it. But getting a tailored response, if you're in a large AFSC, is incredibly difficult. For something like the 1 Bravo, a little bit easier, a little bit smaller community. But like I said, if you're a 3 Delta, there's a lot of them out there and a lot of records to go through. So just be understanding, patient, and if you have any suggestions or would like to volunteer to help be a scribe on one of these boards, please contact me, and we can make sure we get you in the mix. Over.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. I think it's a great point. And so we were restricted to Buckley's COVID protocols under HPCon Charlie for the boards this year too. So it was they only had 4 people that were board members, and we had Chief Sorelli from 854th was down there representing the wing. So we had 25% of the board members was out of the wing. We tried to get 50% and try to get Chief Solis down there to represent the combat comm community, but we intend to do that next board. So we have another question?
Yes, sir. We have a question from Nick Kaiser. I hope I said that right. What are the current requirements to cross-train into 1B4?
Chief, you got that, or do you want me to punt?
Go ahead, sir.
All right, well, what I think it is, I think there's an EDPT test that you have to take and you have to score. Don't tell me, I don't know exactly what it is, but you have to be a 5 level in an AFSC, and you have to pass this test, and then you need to have a discussion with the unit on the position to make sure that you're the right fit and you have the background experience. But certainly, we'll give you the formal answer through the feedback process of the questions. We'll get that answer. I don't have Sergeant Luna in here. I don't have a UTM in here to tell me exactly what that is. So, but great question.
Yeah, I can check on that, sir. We'll make sure we get back to him because if he's wondering, there's probably others that are wondering. But we'll get you that specific answer.
Excellent. Yeah.
Over a 60 on the ET.
6-0? 6-0 on the test. And we know it's not a great test. There's a lot of debate about whether or not the test is a predictor of success. We all have personal opinions about that, but right now the Air Force says that's what it is, and there's really no way around that at this point. And so we have explored, and I think we have approval through A6 to bring on non-priors into 1B as a test case. So I think we're working through that to try to find some good folks that are coming right off the street to come be brand new 1Bs. So you don't have to be, you don't have to have a 5-0 in another crew field. Okay, so I'll start pressing here. I'm already 20 minutes over the time, the expectation that I told you 45 minutes before, but I'd like to thank all the presenters we had today. We don't do these enough, and so we wanted to jam as many things in as we can. It's a really important part of the season. I think it's an important part of us to communicate what's going on here, the geographically separated nature of the way we do business, the way we didn't have a real good commander's call of people in place, and the GSUs again. It's really hard, so we wanted to spend the time to give you the information you need and not just hear it through a couple other channels. So I'm going to make a challenge to the wing. I think we ought to take Chief's hashtag shop like a gladiator and make it go viral. So let's try to do that, and then let's tag the 960th Airborne. I think that's awesome. What do you think about it? So I got a few things here I want to share, and I'm going to run through as fast as I can and then get you back to your UTA. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for what you do. Certainly in America, there's lots of opportunities, land of opportunities. There's other things you'll be doing with a Saturday and Sunday rather than getting up and being part of this organization and this experiment. So we appreciate you being part of that. And so I want to touch a little bit on our priorities. Mr. Benke touched on it, that I really appreciate all the priority teams and champions and goal objective owners, and a lot of you in the room and out there are making this happen. So this is not Rick Erredge jamming these things down everybody's throat. This is a team, organically developed, things we're thinking about. I set the intent, I threw out some ideas, and the teams have taken it, ran with it, and I couldn't be happier. Things are just going marvelous, and I'll tell you, if what you're doing doesn't fit into one of those 3 priorities, empower airmen and their families, optimize readiness, or execute the mission, that we need to ask a question why we're doing it, why we're spending resources, time on doing that if it doesn't align with one of those priorities. We ask you to do a lot, we ask a lot of your time, and we shouldn't waste it. So please keep that in mind. Let's talk about that. I'm going to refer to my notes for the next one here. I just want to be clear with where I stand on diversity and inclusion and societal unrest. There's no tolerance for discrimination of any kind, at any level, at anywhere in our organization. We need to have honest conversations. I know many of the units have been doing that, and I'll encourage you to continue to do that in small groups. And if it's uncomfortable, it probably should be. That means you're addressing the right things. So continue to focus on that. I expect everybody good listeners, right? Listening is better than talking at some time, so really listen for content and meaning when you're listening and having a conversation with our people. Challenge you to find a better way to understand and challenge you to be part of the solution. It starts one person at a time, and let's change the narrative going forward within our Air Force, within our wing, and certainly society at large. And I think it's fair to say we know we have a long way to go, but there's no better place to start than now, and let's attack it full on. And it's really about diversity of thought, and you get that diversity of thought from diversity of experience, background, and all the protected categories, and everybody coming from a different place. So it's really important that we find that, because we don't need a bunch of clones of me. I need everybody else's input and thought, and to make good decisions, we need everybody to be part of the process. And there's probably going to be change, and we've seen some change already, and embrace the change and figure out a way to help push that change and be a positive change agent. And then finally, I'll leave you with the squadrons need to continue to, squadrons are the backbone of the Air Force, and we need you to continue to push the agenda and continue to have the conversations in and outside your unit, with your families, with your children, with your friends, with neighbors, with your coworkers, inside and outside of our organization. So thank you for what you're doing there. I'm very proud of the way we're getting after that issue and concern. So COVID, so Chief mentioned a little bit, we spent a lot of time talking about what's the right participation model and method, and I've taken a real hands-off approach, and so I'm trying to provide some guidance and let squadron commanders and superintendents and the units make the decisions on how we participate. And General Borgen's got my back, General Scobie has said the same thing, that the decisions are going to be at the unit level for how we participate. And even General Brown all the way down has said, we're not going to go back to do business the way we used to. Now, what does that mean? It's going to be different for every organization and frankly for every single person. We all have different concerns, issues, and things going on in our lives, and we need to have those discussions and communication and expectations with our supervisors and our leaders in our organization. And you as supervisors and commanders need to be having that with everybody to make sure that we're putting people in the right opportunity to succeed. And certainly, I feel like I've tried to do that for the wing staff, and I've stayed out of the business. Some of the commanders have asked for limits, and I've tried to give some left and right and some ideas, but ultimately, your unit's going to decide how you participate. So be part of that process and help figure out what that looks like for you guys. And safety and health is a number one concern. So making sure that our airmen, our families are conducting the mission safely, and that if you don't have to be in and you can do your business from somewhere else, I encourage you to take a look at that and assess that situation. Budget, real quick on budget. We know we're going into election year. We've got some very difficult things ahead of us. The budget's going to be really tight, and we're on a CR probably till December, and then we'll see. It might be one of those years again, we go March, April before we have a real budget. And so just understanding the context of that and understanding what we need to do and operate in that environment is going to be important. The uncertainty around the operations and maintenance funds is a real concern of mine, and I've already talked to 10th Air Force, and we are, when Chief and I were down at AFRC headquarters, we spent 45 minutes with FM chewing their ear that our organization has way more AGRs than a lot of other organizations, and so we need a bigger proportion of O&M dollars for training, travel, and supplies. They hear us, and we'll see. But right now, we didn't get, no wings and Air Force Reserve got any O&M dollars. Everything has to be an unfunded request. So I need you to think ahead of time for anything that falls in O&M that we need to submit a UFR request through Miss Lundy and FM, and then we go to AFRC to fight for the money. The future is very bright in cyber. It's bright for this wing. The last couple weeks, we've had a number of engagements with Chief Brown and with General Scobie as wing commander type things for all the wing commanders, and they've said that cyber, ISR, IW is a real growth area. Maybe not overall to the bottom line, but at least in mission. And so it's very important for us to understand that we're at, I wouldn't say we're at the crux, but we're reaching a point where all of our senior leaders are lined up and are interested in the business we're in and are asking us difficult questions. And by difficult questions, I mean, as those RegAF organizations reorganize, how does that look for us? And how do we participate as part of the overall force? And then how do we align and associate with that mission? And then we're being asked about what does IW mean for Air Force Reserve. We're trying to figure that out. We have some missional analysis undergoing, and certainly that could shift and lead to different missions in our wing. And so really excited about that, and the potential changes of us participating in this war of cognition and creating outcomes for our nation's leaders is really important for us. And so the last thing I'll leave you with is engagement and connectedness. And so it's hard right now to connect with people. We know that. I feel like we've gotten much better in the last 6 months, but you've kind of heard it throughout the presentation today with our people about the resources that are available and the opportunities to connect. And I'm gonna bang the drum again with use the feedback sources that we provided. We made an investment in the happy or not process in order for us to have that as a real easy tool to understand emotion-based feelings of what you're doing. And we're trying to turn that feedback we get right back to you and tell you what we're doing about it. And we're trying to do that as fast as we can and improve your quality of life, frankly, under our first priority of taking care of an airmen and their families. Social media, since Sam Mathison has come on board, we've had this massive increase in presence. We know not everybody's on social media, and I think that's fine. But what that does is it drives us to do a number of other things with their information. And so we've tried to take an approach where we're going to provide you information in a way that you want to consume it. Now, we can't necessarily cover down on everything, but certainly we're trying to hit the major ways and give you an opportunity to consume the information where you want. So whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whether that's the Air Force Connect app, whether that's through the Happy or Not, whether that's, certainly I want you to listen to the podcast. We feel really good about that. We're leading Air Force Reserve. Nobody else is doing podcasts like we are. And we're getting really good topics, and it's really taken off. And then we've got the Key Spouse, and then obviously all of our resources available. I got the chaplain for 16th Air Force reached out this week. He wants to engage with us. And certainly the Airman Family Readiness Centers across all your organizations, the Key Spouse, and Ms. Martinez are working with them to provide opportunities for you to get programming and help. So we're trying to make all this available. So I need you to engage and then connect with all your other airmen and stay involved with everybody, make sure we're looking out for each other and doing wingman checks. So I ran about as fast as I can. Took way too much of your time, but it sounds like we got a couple questions. I'm ready to take them.
Yes, sir. The first one was in regards to the training that y'all started out with. So what was the driver for the 1B4 training conversation? Is there a push to recruit 1B4s?
There is a push to recruit 1B4s. I think the last number I saw for Air Force Reserve were like 68% just people in positions, and effective manning were less than that. So certainly it is an area that we need to focus on. And I'm not sure I understand the part specific about the training. The training is difficult. We understand that. At one point, I think it was like a 40% pass rate. So about 60% of the people were not passing. And I want to highlight the 426 here. It's a great opportunity for them. They created an in-house 1B4 preparation course, and putting that effort on getting people prepared and helping them understand the fundamentals before they go is paying big dividends. And so if you want some information about that, I encourage you to reach out to them. But we are looking at better ways to make sure our airmen are better prepared, and we're selecting the right people to be successful. It's a really hard course, and we need to do a better job on the back end of making sure that we're using our 1Bs properly in the right missions. We're taking advantage of this investment that we've made in you.
Okay, and then sir, the next question was, if certain squadrons find a teleworking method that works well for them, is there an avenue to share those success stories to help other units find their stride?
Yeah, so that's a great opportunity, and I think we need to do more sharing, and we don't do that really well, but I think there's opportunities to do that through certainly Mr. Benke, our CPI, best practices. Certainly he can collect those, and he needs to collect those best practices on a routine basis, and we upload those into lessons learned across the Air Force, not just with the wing. And I would encourage you to share those in the forums that we do have. So weekly staff meetings is a great place to share those opportunities. And then at the Leadership Summit in November, certainly we're going to have some interactions with the units to share best practices, lessons learned, what their priorities are, challenges, and successes as well. So great point.
There were no other questions, sir.
No other questions? All right, so thank you again for what you do. Thank you for an hour and 34 minutes. I know it's long, but it's important for us to get this out. We're going to try this again in January, so please send your feedback to the 960th Public Affairs org box. We'll collect the feedback there, and if you have any specific questions about anything, you can hit the Air Force Connect app in the Ask the Chief. It's an anonymous opportunity there, or hit the Public Affairs link inside the Air Force Connect app. Certainly email myself or the Chief or anybody else in the room or your chain of command. We want the feedback. if this worked, if it didn't work, and look to provide you a better commander's call going forward. So thanks again, and have a great month.